Hi, family. Stephanie here. And I want to indicate first and foremost that this is not clickbait. This is a very serious topic and a very real experience for targeted individuals who are undergoing organized stalking, gang stalking, cause stalking, group stalking, spiritual warfare, you name it, it has a word for it. But this is a very real and patterned agenda of the gang stalking strategy. And so I've broken it down into three parts that are the most basic parts of the agenda and the setup. And then I want to talk about two of the outcomes that they are hoping for. And this is not to scare anyone, but if you are able to identify the trap, then you are more likely to avoid it. And that is why I do videos like these. And so hit the like button on your way in and let's get into it. So the first phase, and I like to name things when I do phases and patterns with the same letter because they're easier to remember. So this three-pronged strategy I have named with R's because the first setup is on your mind. So I'm going to call it reason. It is an attack on your reason and a setup. And what I mean by this is that all of the street theater tactics, all of the gaslighting, any of the initial tactics that you can think of, the seeing the same gesture, seeing the same colors, the street theater, that kind of thing. Even when you break it down, and we'll get into smear campaigns and things like that, but the initial attack is on your mind. It is meant to destabilize your mind. So again, to remember it, it's an R, reason. It's an attack on your reason. Their tactics are designed to destabilize you mentally. Now, this ends in very real and tangible results. So stay with me till the end because this sounds harmless, that you're just confusing someone, that you're just causing them to question their own reality. The very definition of gaslighting, which is a modern term, but a very old, it was from a movie, I think in the 1940s, about causing a woman, in this case, to question her own perception by telling her, what you're seeing is not what you're seeing. The husband, if just for history's sake, in this movie, the husband would dim the gas lamps in the home. And she would say, gosh, and I haven't seen the movie, but I know of the movie, but she would observe like, hey, aren't the gas lamps a little bit lower? And he'd be like, no, like you're imagining things. That is where we get the term gaslighting. And it is by definition confusing your mind. And this is the first part of the setup, is to make you question your own reality so that the things that you're experiencing sound unbelievable and that and it's not even important if they can get you questioning your perception, then it's like a top. It's like if you set a top spinning on a table, you don't have to keep spinning it. All they have to do is get you enough destabilized and in enough confusion by doing these things and inundating you with sounds and with events and with gestures and with street theater and sensitizing you to colors and all of these street level things. And we know it gets more intense. So bear with me. But this part is to confuse your mind, your reason. That's the first R. The second part of the setup is your reputation. It is a setup on your reputation. So you, at the same time, will generally, or at least overlapping, is the assault on your character and the smear campaign. It is what they are telling others about you. And it is, largely untrue. I can't say in everyone's case that everything's untrue. If you happen to make a misstep, if you happen to do something, they will amplify it. They will exaggerate it. It's likened to if you stubbed your toe and somebody went out and said you broke your leg. I mean, it can be the perception of impropriety, the appearance of impropriety that matters, and they will amplify that. And they will make things up. They will literally assassinate your character. So the second part of the setup is on your reputation. And I mention this for a reason, because it doesn't matter whether you did or didn't do something. The important part is to discredit you. That is the setup on your reputation. So they've gotten you confused. They've gotten you in this heightened state of arousal, like meaning, your nervous system, your limbic system. They have got you on high alert. They have gotten you in fight or flight mode. And at the same time, that's the reason they are attacking your reputation. They are literally spreading out lies so that the next phase, when they implement the next phase, it will all snap into place. And so the attack on your reputation, almost everyone who has been targeted has endured a smear campaign. It can range from, again, something minor or something you may have said that they will twist, all the way to outrageous lies of impropriety and perversion and all kinds of things that have, it generally won't get back to you what is said. Many people stay baffled for the rest of their lives as to what is it did they tell people that caused them to alienate themselves from me. A lot of people never find out. Some of us get bits and pieces. In my case, I got bits and pieces of it much later down the road. But at the time, it's very disorienting. And it adds to that same confusion that you're experiencing in the beginning. So they will be tempting you into risky choices. They will be misrepresenting your reactions. They will be making up outright falsehoods about your character and spreading that as far as and as wide as they can. And so even if you don't commit a crime, all they need is to make it look like you did. You don't need to be mentally ill. All they have to do is make it look like you are. And so this is all a very disgusting, I have to say, but patterned blueprint for what they are doing to targeted individuals. And there is a reason for it, because the third setup will be your response. They will push you into a response. And this is not blaming others for your actions, but they put you in this pressure cooker of an environment where every aspect of your life is being attacked, from your social relationships to your family to your finances. Your home may be getting broken into, your car being tampered with. Everywhere you go, you're seeing these random people who seem to know your business. Obviously, they intentionally hide under plausible deniability. They will do things that, if you speak out about them, mimic mental illness. This is by design. So just know that it is by design that the things that they do to you sound so outrageous that they are implausible, and they can dismiss them then. So they have done this thing where they have confused you, they have smeared your reputation, and now they are watching for your response. They are watching, and that's why often you will hear me talk about not responding to them, not because it's not justified, not because you're not experiencing it, but because they will weaponize it against you. So they are just waiting for a response, and it could be the most minuscule response. You could say, "Hey, didn't you tell me something different the other day?" Or, "Hey, what's going on with everybody? Why is everyone acting so strange?" Or calling a friend and saying, "Why aren't you calling me anymore? Like, what's going on?" And that, even that mild of a response, you will be, it will be amplified, and it will be like, this person is really insecure. If you're calling and saying, "What's going on?" If you even make the mildest observation of their tactics, they will amplify that. If you say, "Gosh, it's really strange," you happen to tell a friend, like, "Everywhere I go, I see one headlight, strangest thing." Then you will start hearing you're unstable, or "Everywhere I go, X, Y, or Z is happening." Your outburst or your reaction does not even have to be that extreme for it to be twisted into a narrative that they have pre-designed. That's why it's a setup. They have already laid the groundwork for you being unstable, for you being unhinged. And so, worst case scenario, and what they are really hoping for, and that's why this is quite literally a setup, not clickbait. I know many targeted individuals who have wound up with diagnoses in mental institutions or who have even been set up for crimes. I know in my own case that this was before I knew about gang stalking. I didn't know what was happening to me. I had gotten involved with somebody who was very dark several years ago, who presented themselves to be something else, and we have a whole video on honeypots and honey traps. You can check that out in the comments, or sorry, on the channel. But I had fallen for one of these, and towards the end, as I was becoming scared and was recognizing, as the mask had fallen and I was recognizing this person for what and who they were, I was threatened with these things outright, that I would be set up for a crime, that I would wind up in a facility, and all of these things. And it was so very strange because I had no criminal history. I had no history of mental illness to the degree that I would ever, be put in some kind of institution. And so it was so odd. And when later I went to a therapist after I fled, and those of you who watch my live streams, there are bits and pieces of my story. It would take hours and hours and hours to tell my entire story. I try to focus on patterns, and I try to focus on what I have learned as a result of these things, which is why it's in pieces, and it's not about me. And so anyway, in my case, I later, after I had fled and I had gone to therapy, this was several years ago, and talked about this, they told me, oh, that's just an intimidation tactic. That's what abusers do. They just say these kind of things that, they're going to do these kind of things to you. And I thought that was it, because I didn't understand that the larger orchestrated attacks had not begun yet. It just started with this one like narcissistic demon that I had gotten involved with. And so that's what I was focused on, was the events that happened, and those were bad enough. But until I moved and the orchestrated stalking began, and even then for a long time, I didn't have a word for it. And so if I can spare somebody from falling into the same traps that I did, it is why I do videos like this. Because had I recognized that this was the playbook, that this was the scenario, that all of this was orchestrated and manufactured, my confusion, the smear, I couldn't figure out why would anyone just outright lie like that? Why would anyone do this to somebody? I had no conception of evil. I couldn't wrap my brain around somebody being this nefarious or this calculating. But I'm trying to zoom out for the masses, because this is not just me. This is a pattern. This is what they do. And it has taken me years and years of research and therapy and education and all of these things to identify these patterns, books, research articles. I mean, you name it. I have delved down every rabbit hole. I have explored it all. And those of you who know my content, you know that I believe that this is spiritual warfare. You know that I believe that this is wickedness at the hands of men. And I have drilled that in for the past several months in my content about the spiritual nature of this. But I recognized at some point that this is not helping the individual out there who is struggling with the carnal tactics, the things that are happening at the hands of men. Because the minute you talk about spiritual warfare, people think you're talking about ghosts. All I am simply saying is that at the root of this is evil. These people are evil. And if you have experienced this, if you have experienced any form of this, they're just, even if you look at the DSM-5, you will, or 4, excuse me, at the DSM-4, you will see that narcissists, one of the criteria is that they have sadistic tendencies. So they are literally using spiritual language to explain a psychological phenomenon. So I'm getting off on track. I want to stay with, in this video, some of the carnal things and this trap, this blueprint that is setting you up to fall straight into the hands of law enforcement, to fall straight into the hands of a mental professional, and you will get a diagnosis. Your experience will become a symptom rather than a testimony, if that makes any sense. And I don't mean testimony in the sense of how you came to Christ. I'm talking about your statement of what has happened to you. You will be labeled, you will be misdiagnosed, and you will be gaslit. A lot of the time, most of the time. There are exceptions. Not every mental health professional is bad. Not every law enforcement officer is bad or evil. Not every person in the government is evil or bad. But these are generalities. These are things that you can unwittingly fall into. It's like, if you picture it as somebody, as me, as somebody, and those of us who have been going through this for a long time, as somebody who has walked through a minefield and can point and say, hey, like, don't step there. There's a trap right there. There's a mine right there. And this is what I'm telling you. And so when I say don't react, I'll get comments like, I've been trying not to react and it's still happening. There is no one magic bullet. You have really got to invest in learning about the entire picture and stepping out of your circumstances so that you can have more of a bird's eye view. That this is deliberate. This is a deliberate setup for the targeted individual. It will be first your reason, your mind. You will be set into a state of confusion as any normal human being would be, because these things are terrifying. I wish I could maybe I will be able to put a clip here of a former CIA agent. So, take that with a grain of salt in terms of trust, but who is talking about how terrifying, even as an agent, he found comfort when he knew who a stalker was or who was following him. He was talking about like covert operations and how he found reassurance when he would see the same person following him. But when random people begin to follow you, when random people begin to infiltrate and surround you, how very terrifying this is. This is a trained agent who is talking about being in a foreign country and being followed by people. So you can imagine this is someone that they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in training on, who finds it terrifying when you don't know what is what. You don't know who is who. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who is a perpetrator. And therefore, it creates a hypervigilance. And that is your body's way of keeping you safe. That is the most normal response to a threatening situation that it is known to man, is that your body is looking for signs of danger. Your body is looking to stay safe. It's in literally fight or flight or freeze. Now they've added more stuff to it in the psychological world. But it is literally the sanest response you can have, because you sense danger, you sense this threat, and you start paying attention. So why that is gaslit into quote unquote paranoia is insidious, but it is a setup. It is a trap. They are deliberately manufacturing confusion. I did an entire video on the manufactured confusion of targeted individuals. And so then again, your reputation, that is the second trap. They are out there smearing your reputation so that when the third R, your response, can fall right in line with these things. When the minute you speak out and you dare to talk to someone, the minute that you even suggest like, hey, what's going on? You have already been primed to be gaslit, to be labeled, to be misdiagnosed. Your body is already looking for signs of danger. That is deliberate. This is a setup, and it has quite literally led many targeted individuals. Well, it is enough to break a person. So some people, and there is somebody that I love very much right now, sitting in a jail cell after having had a psychotic break, because this person, a grown adult with no signs of mental illness, the experience itself was enough to break them. This is not for the faint of heart. And it's why I put videos out there like this that try to warn people about this is not a mistake. If you are feeling like things are off, if you are feeling like there will be no mistaking. It's so irritating to me to see videos about signs you are being gang stalked, or how do you know if you're being gang stalked? You will know. There is no mistaking it, because the goal is to traumatize you. And if they stay hidden and you're not aware of it, it's not traumatizing. Think about that. They purposely make themselves known. I heard a story one time about and I wish I could remember more of the details, but it was about an Air Force person, an Air Force officer who flew planes in the Air Force and was involved in some kind of covert operation. And they were literally told that if by some chance another plane was near them or they were sighted, to put on a gorilla mask and to make crazy gestures. Because when that person that observed them spoke out, it would sound so ludicrous that no one would believe them. And it's the exact same dynamic here. You are being primed. Your mind, your reputation is already being primed, so that when you even say, hey, what's going on with people who have suddenly distanced themselves from you? When you say to a close friend or loved one, like, hey, like some really strange things are happening, these things have already been set in place. So this video is not to scare you. It is to prevent you from stepping into one of these traps, onto one of these mines, M-I-N-E-S, mines, like not mines, but into one of these traps, because this is deliberate. This is a playbook. Confuse you, destabilize you. That is your reasoning. Discredit your reputation. That's the second R, reputation. Remember these. And the third one is your response. They will gaslight your response so that it falls in line with the narrative they have already created. And for those of you out there, if you're not a targeted individual, please turn off the video, because this is not going to make sense to you. If you have not experienced this, there is no way that you're going to understand what is happening. And it is going to sound similar to someone who observes someone in a gorilla mask in an airplane. It is going to sound that outrageous to you. And that's okay. That's not who this video is designed for. This video is designed for the protection and the uplifting and the safety of targeted individuals who are enduring this. And it is no doubt the most traumatizing, terrorizing thing you will likely ever go through. But by seeing this in advance, it's like I'm giving you the blueprint to avoid these traps and these mines. I'm giving you the playbook. I am telling you that these are the things that they are doing. These are the levers that are operating and the mechanisms that are in place, so that so that you can avoid stepping on one of those traps, falling into one of those holes. And it's not easy. It actually goes against human nature. You have got to, with the R, with that setup, you have got to learn to regulate yourself. You have got to learn, it goes against human nature. You have to regulate your emotions and your thoughts and not become like a top. When they get it going, you have to make sure it hits a wall. If you understand what I'm saying, do not let it keep spinning. They want you spun up in your head for a lifetime. They want you chasing every rabbit hole as to why is this happening, and that's a whole nother video. I mean, evil is as evil does, and this is evil. But I have plenty of content out there on the why and the wickedness of this. But I did come to realize that we need some tangible, carnal things that people can do to avoid winding up in an institution, winding up in a jail cell, excuse me. There is plenty of open source information out there on surveillance, you can look through this channel. You will find electronic harassment. You will find you will find MK Ultra, you will find Zerzetsung, you will find COINTELPRO. You will find videos on all the various tactics and mechanisms. It is impossible to lay everything out in one video. It is literally impossible. It is simple. Well, it is complicated, it is complex, but at its foundation, it is simple. It is wickedness at the hands of evil. And that goes from the very bottom, the street level people who don't even really know the corruption at the top. And it goes all the way to the top, to the most powerful, not national, not local, global agendas. I kid you not. The more you learn, it is a similar pattern. We see it happening in live time now with people with much larger platforms than myself. What targeted individuals have been undergoing for years should have been a warning, but nobody was listening. We were like screaming underwater. And now we see it happening in live time to people with millions of viewers and platforms who are undergoing the same thing. If every targeted individual could rise up and say, I told you this is what they're doing. Like, I understand it's vindicating and it's relieving, but I understand the frustration of being a little person, if you will, who has undergoing these things, and you're crying into a void and no one is hearing you. And that is by design. They have confused and blurred your perception and reason. They have smeared your reputation, and then they have gaslit your response, which in their finest, what they really hope is that they can get you into one of two very literal traps, which is an institution or a jail cell. And I hate to say that. That is not to scare people. That is so that you can avoid that. You can avoid that cell, if you will, by understanding that it's like manufacturing fog, like a fog machine. This is all done intentionally. That is the clouding of your mind and your perception. The assassination on your character is absolutely by design, and so is the gaslighting of your response. And so please, I hope that by understanding these traps and these two very real possibilities, that you can avoid this. And so hit the like button, go through this channel. There is plenty on gaslighting, on honeypots, on things to watch for. And there is more to come, because I do recognize that there has been a hole, a void where I have been so focused on people seeing that evil is at the root of this, that perhaps I miss some of you who are still struggling to understand, and in a very real, tangible, black and white way, what is happening. And there's plenty of time. Well, there's time for you to explore the why and the how and the dynamics of evil. I mean, that part is not complicated. But the hands at which it's happening, they on purpose, you are this top spun up. And hopefully you're not. Hopefully you are beyond that. And you could look for videos on why targeted individuals are gaslit by law enforcement and courts, and all of the help that we traditionally thought we could go to, whether it's the medical profession or therapists. And again, not all. The enemy has infiltrated all of this, the media, the churches, the medical profession. So we just have to be careful and use discernment is all. I mean, discernment is truly the key. But this particular video is about the traps, the foundation, the groundwork that is being laid. And hopefully you can avoid one of the two extreme scenarios, which is literally, and I have plenty of subscribers who have literally done time or who have been institutionalized by these things. Discernment is key. And understand, these two things are not incompatible. There are systems, there are people, there are organizations, and there are institutions that are involved in evil, nefarious intent. That does not mean that the author of confusion is not the same, that spiritual warfare is not thousands of years old. But I just don't want to miss out on helping people who are struggling around in the dark on the carnal level. And then you can dig deeper. But please watch for this and know it's intentional. It's a setup, it's a trap. And you can avoid it. You can. So focus on staying grounded, on coping with your emotions, using an outlet. Please be careful who you trust. If you want to protect you cannot stop them from telling lies, but you can demonstrate the truth. You can continuously live as the person I know that you are. When they are assassinating your character, you can live as the authentic, truthful, well-intended person that you are. And so truth may take more time to get through than a lie. It says a lie makes it twice around the world before the truth gets its shoes on. Sometimes that is true, or I may have botched that, but that's the gist of it. And it may take a while, but truth always is revealed. So stay strong on the reputation part. Stay strong, gird your mind in truth will help with the reasoning and the confusion. You know deception by knowing the truth. On the reputation, prove them wrong. Be the person that you are. Don't become vengeful. Don't become impulsive. Don't, and I know it's hard. It's not that I have not been through this and made all of the mistakes. Called law enforcement hysterical. All of it. I've done all of it. Run to people that I thought I could trust and just trauma dumped everything on them and talked for hours about all of the details of what was happening. I've done all of this. It's why I can sit here and tell you to please try to avoid these things. You fight lies with truth. And that isn't always speaking about them or defending yourself. It is living as the person that you are. The truthful, well-intended person that you are. And if there's things in your life that you need to adjust because you know you're being watched and they are going to register, record, and amplify your every misstep, then clean those things up. I'm just saying for your own good. Because make no mistake, if you're sensing the watching and all of that, that's both spiritual and carnal. And so if you're like me, I was like, I do not want to do anything that they cannot, that they can amplify, that they can use against me. And it has a refining effect on your character. It all works for the good. So the way to fight a smear campaign is by living in truth and authenticity and kindness and love. And eventually someone will notice this doesn't match. What I'm hearing and what I've experienced doesn't match. And it may not be immediate, but the truth outlives a lie and it always surfaces. So be the truth, be the light. Again, not immediate, but it does eventually work. And the third, probably one of the easiest parts you can control that is your response. And literally, I remember living with a friend for a while during a hard time, and they were just became increasingly cruel. And I remember asking her, like, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I? And and later being like encountering hostility for asking. So the next time I was in town and I happened to stay with that person, the same behaviors resurfaced. And I was like, I am not even going to ask. Like, it's kind of darned if you do and darned if you don't. I understand this, but it's the good news and the bad news. It's very hard to control your responses, but just know that it's almost like a rudder, that a very, small gesture can cause a big wake. That's how our responses are. And so it has, I still, work on this today. There are times I want to send a text and realize the only thing that they cannot gaslight is silence. It is really your most powerful weapon, is silence and not reacting, because they can't gaslight a non-reaction. They cannot gaslight silence. It's impossible. That's why it's so powerful. And I'm not saying you have to walk around as a mute. I'm just saying at least pause before you send that text, that email, ask that question. And please, if something criminal is happening, report it, document it. I am not discouraging that. But I know what I did was I was hysterical. I have a video to this day of the police coming to my home and the whole thing. And so I'm just saying the presentation matters, the approach that you use matters. By all means, document criminal activity. By all means, document your experience. Just don't become consumed with it, is all I'm saying. And try your very best to stay centered. And this is scriptural. This is, when we look at self-control and slow to anger and all of these things. And I've done plenty of content on the scriptural parallels to all of this. And you can find more of that on my channel than anything else. But I don't want to miss these carnal, very tangible things that are happening to targeted individuals and help you try to avoid them. And so have a blessed day. I love you all. Hit the like button. You can meet with me if you like. There's a link. Join my email list. And just know that I love you. You are in my prayers. And we will get through this. We will get through this. It is not hopeless. And you are definitely not alone. So have a very blessed day. And we meet on Sundays. I always would say it. We meet every Sunday at the same time. Watch for a post. And we have live stream discussions about all of these things. So have a blessed week.